except for this stupid brace folding itself in. I think they fixed it. One of the reasons I really am excited about the Jakl in 300 blackout is because it might just make the perfect truck gun, trunk gun, car gun, whatever you want to call it. I have mine currently stowed in this backpack. All right, we're back in business. Hey, it's Matt with 2A Cops. I am out here today at Parma Rod and Gun, and the plan is to do the 1,000 round burn down on my PSA Jakl 300 blackout, what was formerly a pistol. You can see it's got a stock on it. This is the actual Jakl rifle stock. I did SBR this gun in the original video where this gun had a bunch of issues. It was in pistol form with a folding brace. Since then, I did the Form 1. I got it back in 4 days, approved. So this thing is good to go. I have shot this gun since it came back from Palmetto. We've probably put in the neighborhood of 500 or 600 rounds through it. Just all kinds of different ammo with and without the can on it. Just checking it to make sure everything's working, and everything has been working perfectly. Some of the ammo that I've got out here is really dirty stuff. It's actually, this is it right here. Ammo Incorporated, Ammo Inc., 300 blackout supersonics. I'm gonna be running quite a bit of that as part of the 1,000 round burn down. That'll definitely be testing the gun. I don't know what they're using for powder in this ammo, but it leaves like yellow particles inside the gun. So I don't know what's going on with that. So this gun has only been cleaned once, and that was just prior to coming out here to do this. I wanted to make sure it started fresh for the 1,000 rounds because it had so much of that yellow particulate in the receiver from the Ammo Inc. So all I didn't really clean it. I pulled the bolt carrier and bolt out, and I just rubbed them off with a brush to get all the chunks off of it. Then I wiped them down with a rag. I threw a little bit of oil on it, threw it back in. So that's all the work that has been done on this thing since I got it back from PSA. I have changed the height of this optic, and it has not been zeroed yet. I shot it on some plates a while back, last week for that matter, and it seemed to be fine, but since I'm gonna be checking for accuracy out here, I need to have it zeroed as well. So I'm gonna put some rounds through it, subsonic with the can on it. I got a target downrange here, and I'm gonna see where it's hitting. So let's see what we got. By the way, I would like to, before I get into this, I would like to thank Boise Black Rifle. They supplied about half of the 1,000 rounds I'm gonna run through this gun. So thank you very much to them. That definitely helps me get these videos out here. 300 black ammo is not cheap. So let's get this thing going. You'll notice I don't have ears on because I am running subsonics, and this is already a problem. What a way to start the day. Let's try and see what happens with that first round, see if it actually goes off. It does not look like it's in battery, but it might be. I could be just misreading that. Nope, it was not in battery. So, this is, by the way, ammo-wise, this is cellular and billet subsonics. Try this again. So I have a concern about the strength of the recoil spring on this gun. It seems really light. do not want to hold on to the can, Matt. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. I'm going to go down range real quick, see where that's hitting. Gun is on safe. Be right back. All right, so there's halfway back to the right. This should put me right in the middle of this guy. All right, coming back down here. So this is that group that I just shot there. 50-yard zero with the can on it with a zero magnification optic. Not going to complain about that. All right, so good enough, zero. That seems to be working better now that it's getting a little bit warm. By the way, it is 38, 39 degrees out here today, so it's not exactly warm. Bring this back just a little bit. All right, so I know I'm on at 50. I got a target down there at 100 also. I'm gonna throw a couple rounds on it just to see where it's hitting at 100. Hopefully I'll be on paper because if I'm not, I don't have a good backing, so I don't know where I'm at if I'm not on the target. All right, well, sadly I'm not on target out there on paper. I mean, I had an 8-inch circle to shoot at that was clean and everything else around it was all shot to death. So I'm not on that. I can hear it hitting paper, so I'm at least within 4 feet. But we'll see. I'm gonna move over to a different range here in a minute. All right, one thing I wanna mention while I'm loading a couple more mags here. I got a whole bunch of mags laid out. This is for the 1,000 round test. These are our 5.56 P mags. These are obviously metal mags. So I do have 3 Lancer 300 black mags, and I have 2 Magpul 300 blackout mags. I've also got a Magpul D60 drum I'm gonna run. Kind of running just a bunch of stuff to see how it does with them. But one thing worth noting, this Maglula bench loader is awesome if you're loading 5.56. Despite 5.56 being the parent case for 300 blackout, it doesn't work quite as well on 300 blackout because the overall cartridge is shorter and they tend to want to go nose up as you start stuffing them into the mag. So I found if I do 10 at a time instead of 30, it works. It's not quite as quick as loading 5.56 mags, but it beats finger loading big time. So, I got a whole bunch of mags here. I've got the gun here. Since these are all supersonic rounds, I'm gonna pull the can off. I'm gonna have to run a couple of rounds through it just to see, to get my gas settings correct. And from that point on, I'm gonna be running 1,000 rounds of 300 black supersonic through it to see what it does. So everything here is loaded up. I've already emptied one of these cans. So the ammo that I'm running in this test, I have 500 rounds of LAX. This is their 147 grain supersonic ammo. And then I'm gonna run another 500 rounds of this Ammo Inc. Ammo Incorporated. This is 150 grain FMJ. All right, grab my eyes, throw my ears on. I'm actually gonna use this as a bench rest for the moment since my sandbag took a round and no longer holds sand. So we're gonna start off with a Magpul 300 black mag. That seemed to go in just fine. Let's see what we got on gas system settings here. That did not go into battery. That time it did. Let's see what happens here. So there's one hiccup already. I am going to drop my gas settings down a little bit. By the way, this is worth noting. Your gas knob, you kind of need to know which way to turn it. It's nitpicky of me, I realize. I really wish PSA would have marked the handguard with a plus and a minus. That would have been very easy. Other manufacturers do that. I went out here, threw Sharpie on here. So mine is marked plus and minus. I know which way to turn it to adjust it. So, yep, nitpicky, but it's still hitting a little hard. Let's drop it one more notch, see what happens. Go another notch. Ah, come on, turn. Is that turned all the way? All right, that is as low as she goes. So now we're just gonna start dumping her rounds. I can't do this sitting. You know what? Let's go for the D60. Well, so I've got a round sitting in there nose down. I'm going to attribute that to the mag, but let's see what happens again. That one took it. Now, it's doing the same thing. Let me crank the gas up one notch. Nope, it's the magazine. Right. So you can see right there on the D60, the round is now at the very back of the mag. So as this thing starts to come forward and feed the next round, you see how slow that bullet tip came up? Watch the bullet tip. That one didn't even come up. So it's stuck down low. So it is not, you can see that one did the same thing, real slow. It's still stuck. So the fact that the D60 didn't work is not a gun issue. That's a 300 blackout / D60 issue. All right, Magpul D60's out. Let's get back into these other mags here. I'm gonna try to adjust this a little bit, see what that. Handguards are starting to get a little bit warm, but not horrendous. I gotta take a break for a second. I will note, I'm getting a little bit of gas, but it's not horrendous. There's very little breeze out here. I got 2 more loaded mags. All right, now it's getting hot. All right, so that's 300. You don't need to watch me reload, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the cameras for a minute. You can see a little bit of smoke coming out of this thing, and it is definitely getting warm on the handguard. Something worth noting also. You can also see where the gun vents is up front. The upside to freezing cold weather, the gun cools off quicker. All right, so back to LAX. That one did not chamber fully, which it does sometimes when it's cold. Again, I think the recoil spring could use to be just a hair heavier. All right, we're back in business. Oh, trigger finger's getting tired. Turn that brightness up just one notch. There we go. All right, this is going to be the first mag that gets into some of the ammo ink, and that's the first 10 rounds. So I don't know if it's loaded with different pressures. We'll find out here. Oh, yep, bolt did not come back far enough. Come on out of there. So I need to go up one notch on the gas system for the ammo ink. Ooh, that gas knob is hot. All right, there's up one notch. This should make me happier with this. So the LAX ammo is hotter than the ammo ink. Helps if I seat the bolt or the mag all the way. Still not coming back far enough. I need something to turn that with. There's a loose round. All right. Man, this stuff is loaded a lot lighter. Now what? Still need one more. Man, I'm almost up to full power here. I am up to full power. So remember when I said that ammo was garbage? I might have to put the can on it to make this thing run. All right, well that right there is the LAX. That was the last of the LAX ammo. This is more, oh, also worth noting, as I just set that down, that was also a 5.56 PMag. So, let's see how it does now that it's running out of a 300 black mag. I think it's still light. I might have to put the can on it and turn the gas down a little bit. Yeah, seems to be working okay. All right, mags are loaded up And this is going to be the end of it. This is the last of the ammo. So far, a couple of issues with the first round going into the chamber, not going into battery fully. That time it did. Oh, my paper target fell down. Oh well. Ooh, that went a little bit slow. I think the gun's getting a little dirty. Last bag. You can definitely tell the gas is venting up front. It had a couple of issues taking the first round out of a mag when it was cold. Once it's warmed up, it doesn't have an issue with that. Granted, 300 blackout is all over the place in terms of how loads are loaded. There's a huge difference between the LAX 147 grain ammo I've got here and the Ammo Inc. 150 grain. The LAX was loaded far hotter. I had to put this thing all the way to fully open with the Ammo Inc. to get it to run reliably. But that's the beauty of an adjustable gas block, an adjustable gas system. The handguard does get warm after 8 full mags, 240 rounds. So, and I mean, how often are you going to dump 240 rounds that rapidly through it? And again, I stand by practice the way you're going to play. I don't shoot with gloves on because I don't carry gloves. I don't wear gloves everywhere I go. If something shit hits the fan, I'm going to grab my gun. I'm not going to have gloves on. So just get used to it. It doesn't burn. I just got a bunch of carbon buildup on my hand. My hand is not burnt. I'm going to go back to the house here. We'll go out in the shop and we're going to take this thing apart and see how dirty it is inside. And we'll talk more about it there. All right, it's a day later. I'm out in the garage. You guys saw the gun out at the range, running 1,000 rounds. I'm going to talk about that. But before I do, I want to thank one of my main channel sponsors here. That's going to be U.S. Law Shield. U.S. Law Shield is basically self-defense for people who use self-defense. It is a prepaid legal service. It gives you attorneys on call 24 hours a day in case you end up having to use force to defend your life, whether it's lethal force with a firearm, whether it's hands-on fighting a guy, whatever it is a prepaid legal service and they cover you. Unlike a lot of the other legal services that do the same thing, there's one major difference with U.S. Law Shield, and that is that they cover on-duty law enforcement as well. There are plans starting as low as $10 a month. So if you carry a gun for work, for personal use, for self-defense, it is definitely something to consider. Thank you very much to U.S. Law Shield. It's because of my channel sponsors that I'm actually able to do this stuff. So, all right, let's get back into this. Oh, and sorry, another sponsor. I mentioned them out at the range when I was shooting, but again, thank you. Big thank you to Boise Black Rifle for supplying some of my ammo for this. 300 blackout ammo is not cheap, and so it was nice to have some support and get some of that stuff paid for. Anyway, back into the gun. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. You saw me out at the range shooting this thing. Let's talk about the gun itself real quick. Obviously, it's gone through a couple of changes since the first video I did on this, where the gun ran into major issues. So let's talk about what's changed. One, the most obvious is going to be the stock here. I did SBR this. This is the factory folding stock that if you buy a Jakl rifle, it's one of the options that comes on that rifle. It's made by F5 Manufacturing. I like the look of it. I like the function of it. So I ended up buying one to put on this. I'm running this is a Primary Arms Micro Prism, 1 power, 0 magnification. It is an illuminated reticle optic, but it is also an etched reticle prism optic. So it doesn't need a battery to run. I like that about it. That's one of the reasons I put it on here. If the batteries die, I still have a usable sighting system. As far as the light goes, this is an Arasaka light, Arasaka mounting plate, and a Surefire tail cap and pressure pad. And up on the muzzle, I've got a Silencer Co. ASR mount. This Yankee Hill R9 can has a Silencer Co. ASR QD screwed into it, because that is a hub can. So that's the layout of this gun. Now, a couple other things I did to this when I first got this gun. It does have a Geissele SDC trigger in it, as well as a Radian 45-degree throw ambi safety. And I have a Troy ambi mag release. Oh, and let's not forget the Magpul hand stop. All right, so that's the actual bits and pieces that are on the gun. Let's talk about what happened out at the range. Sat down just to make sure, because I did add one of the spacers to the mount here to raise this optic up a little bit, so I wanted to verify 0 on it. Sat down at the 50-yard bench range to 0 it, and the first round would not go into battery. And I was running it out of a Lancer P-Mag. I'm sorry, a Lancer 300 Black Mag. I have found several times now, when this gun is cold and dirty, the first round out of the magazine has had some trouble chambering. It's done that, to my knowledge, the best of my recollection, 4 times since I got this gun back from Palmetto. The first range trip, when the gun was clean and I took it out after it got back from Palmetto, didn't have any issues. I've had that problem, actually it was the only time I've had that problem since it came back was when I took it out to do the 1,000-round burn down, and the gun was dirty to start with. So first round, didn't want to chamber. I've mentioned before that I think the recoil spring in here is a little bit light. I'm going to look at some possibilities of potential ways to make it a little bit heavier. It has only done that when it's dirty, and for whatever reason, it only does it on the first round coming out of the magazine. When the gun is cycling on its own, it doesn't have an issue. Sadly, the charging handle over here is not a forward assist. Like on some guns, when you, the SCAR, PWS's new UXR, the ACR, when you pull that charging handle back, it locks into the bolt carrier so that you can use it as a forward assist. On this gun, that is not the case. So pulling it back with the charging handle, I'm going to lock the bolt open. This charging handle is not attached to the bolt carrier. It just pushes it back. So if it had some way of locking in, you'd be able to just tap that forward and get that first round into battery if you ran into that problem. What I'm going to look at as an option is potentially trying to add a small spacer in front of the recoil spring in the bolt carrier, which will give it a little bit extra spring pressure. And I'm talking like maybe a 1/4 of an inch thick piece of spacer. For that matter, I've got some pieces of tube here that'll probably work out really well for that. But that's what I'm going to do down the road. Let's talk about what happened. For that matter, I'm going to break it open and we're going to see how clean or dirty this thing is. All right, so you should have a fairly decent view of what's going on here. Let's see here. Take the lower off, look inside of it. It actually looks a lot cleaner than the last time. Last time there was all kinds of, you can see it up here, the little yellow particles. They were all over filling the inside of this thing. In my very I wouldn't call it cleaning, just degunking this gun. I blew a lot of that stuff out of there before the 1,000 round burn down. So this gun has not been cleaned since 1,000 rounds have been through it. You can see it's still pretty clean inside the trigger pocket. All right, let's go to the bolt carrier. So on this thing here, this is your recoil spring. Push it forward, lift it up. I can't do it upside down, looking through a camera. All right. So I'm gonna pull this out of here. So what I'm gonna try and do to increase this recoil spring pressure a little bit is just add a spacer up front here. I think I can do that just to bump up the spring pressure just a little bit. I mean, it does not need much when it's cold and dirty. When it's warm, it has not had a problem. All right, this thing is a lot cleaner than the last time I put 500 rounds through it. So I don't know what ammo it was. Oh, there we go. This is the stuff I'm talking about. You can kind of see that yellow stuff that's built up there. Don't know what that is. There's some of it on the back of the bolt too. Feed ramps are pretty dirty. I don't see any weird wear marks on them. For that matter, there's very little wear on the inside of the receiver. Right here, there's a little bit where the bolt carrier is running. So let's talk about the bolt carrier and where it rides inside the gun. On the left side of the gun, you've got these 4 screws. Those are holding a metal rail, steel rail, that your bolt carrier is riding on. So that steel rail runs right in here. This piece here, and these smaller, it's much smaller on this side. There's one up front here and one at the rear here. Those ride against the aluminum. So that steel rail that's in there, not only does it give it something smooth to ride on that keeps it from going up and down, it also keeps it from tilting. So in that first video, people commented that that the gun was not ejecting properly, that they were complaining about the ejection pattern being 4 o'clock, 3 to 5 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark. And they were saying that I needed to adjust the gas system to put the ejection pattern over at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. This isn't an AR, guys. It doesn't have the same ejection pattern. Not every gun has the same ejection pattern. Different guns throw shell casings differently. So you can't come into this basing your opinions on where this gun should be ejecting based on your knowledge of ARs. It just doesn't work that way. Yeah, the lower receiver is an AR, but that's it. None of the rest of this is AR stuff. So that was one thing. Mags. I talk about it in the video when I was out at the range. I'm gonna throw a clip of that in here. No, I'm not. So let's talk about mags. When the gun first had issues, I was thinking potentially it could have been magazine related, but I didn't know. That was until I came in to the shop here and figured out what was going on. Out at the range, I was thinking it might have been mag related. There were lots of comments in the on that first failure video, people saying it was not mags, that there's no difference between a 300 blackout mag and a 5.56 mag. There is absolutely a difference. It's not just some marketing thing. You can see when I was out at the range and I showed you loading the magazines. The 300 black mags loaded 300 black mag or rounds just fine. The 5.56 mags, when I was using the mag loader, would not load properly. Looking at the outside of the mag body between a P mag and a 5.56 and a 300 blackout, yeah, there doesn't look like there's a significant difference. The differences are internal. There are definitely differences. Then I ran into the problem with the D60. Some people have, I did a little research after I ran into that issue. Seems like some people are having no problems running the D60s with 300 blackout. I don't know what rounds they're running. I was running 147 grain ammo. My suspicion is they might be running some of the lighter 110 grain rounds because the projectile is smaller in shape. And it wouldn't have that same issue on that little piece inside the mag that is causing the bullets to not feed properly out of the magazine, causing them to hang up and not come all the way up to the top of the feed lips. So D60s are a no-go with heavier rounds, at least in my experience. The Lancer 300 black mags, the Magpul 300 black mags, and the metal 5.56 mags all function flawlessly. I did have some issues when I was running 5.56 mags. So that brings me to this. Reliability wise, as long as that first round goes into battery, this gun has been flawless. Sadly, I had, what I say, 3 or 4 times. I'm gonna have to sit down and count, and I'll put a note at the bottom here how many times it actually was, where the first round, when the gun was cold and dirty, that first round didn't go into battery completely. I think it was 3 or 4. So let me mention one of my gripes here. So let's talk about this. Your gas adjustment knob is right up front here. And it's locked up again. Let me see if I can find. So carbon gets in there and gets all dirty and it doesn't want to turn. Now it's turning. I broke the carbon loose. So obviously when it's hot, I had to use a bullet tip to turn this. That's the nice thing. I got that big slot so I could stick something in it to turn it. But PSA in the book tells you which direction to turn it for more gas, for less gas. I referred to it as full power in the video. I was talking fully open, as much gas as I could get. Lots of manufacturers that have adjustable gas blocks, they mark on the receiver so you don't have to refer to a book to figure out which way to adjust your gas knob. Sadly, PSA didn't. It wouldn't have taken much to stamp a minus and a plus into the fore end. So since it wasn't there, I just grabbed a Sharpie and marked it so I didn't have to keep going back to the book because I couldn't remember which way to turn it. So I guess at this point, the question comes down to, do I think this gun is going to be reliable enough for me to trust it with my life? I'm going to do something here real quick while I got this thing on camera. And that is, I'm going to see if I can find a tiny little spacer that's significantly shorter. Does that fit in? It did. Perfect. So what that was is a quarter 20 nut, 7/16 diameter nut. And will this, so that goes there. Let's see if I can actually get it to cycle all the way. Then the question is going to be, am I going to have enough gas to run the gun with a stiffer spring in it? So it does still come back all the way. Definitely is a heavier pull. You know what? Hold that thought. The gun is dirty and cold. I'm going to go grab 300 black subsonic mag. All right, so let's just see what happens here. This is S&B 300 black subsonic, the same stuff that didn't want to go in when the gun was cold out at the range. There's 5 rounds in it. There was a little bit of a hitch, but it definitely went all the way into battery. I'm gonna try it again here. I'm wondering if I go like this and just kind of walk it. I'm gonna have to shoot this thing to make sure it still runs like that, but that might be the solution right there. It seems to be chambering those just fine. So I guess I'm gonna go out and function check this thing here in a few minutes. I'm just gonna run down the road to some BLM land by my house and put some rounds through it to make sure it's working. And I will bring a camera so you can see. All right, so I'm out here down the street from my house. The camera is set up in my truck because it's snowing, as you can probably see on camera. This does have that quarter 20, 7/16 inch sized nut in there, giving me a little bit of additional power on the recoil spring. First round went in just fine. There's 20 rounds, functioned just fine. So that was obviously subsonics with the suppressor on. Ooh, got a little bit warm just for 20 rounds. Come on. I gotta get that off of there so I can test supersonics. Probably should have done those first. If I can get my sweatshirt here to get, whew. I was gonna let this sit in the bed of the truck here. Hot. All right, so now let's run some supers. I don't know how many are in this mag. Don't even know what this is. I am gonna have to bump up my gas. Let's see what happens here. Probably could have used one more notch on the gas setting because it didn't lock open on empty. But I'm definitely gonna, well, I'll talk more about that on camera. Back in the garage where I'm not getting snowed on. All right, so let's talk about what just happened. Went out, test fired this thing with my modification that I did to it, which does add just a bit more spring tension on the bolt carrier, a little more power behind the bolt carrier. Fired 20 rounds of S&B subsonic, same stuff I've been shooting with the can on it, functioned perfectly. Took the can off, cranked the gas setting back down 2 notches, and I fired, I don't know how many rounds were in here. I think it was about 10 of supersonic. The gas settings were in the same exact position as they were without the modification I did. So let me get this camera going here. And let me show you what I'm talking about modification wise. So what I did was I just put in a spacer, which I'm gonna refine my spacer. Currently it's just a nut. Put it in the back of the bolt carrier where the recoil spring assembly goes to put a little bit more power behind the bolt carrier. So in that hole, this is where your recoil spring sits inside the receiver, like that. This locks into the top of the receiver, recoil spring's right there. So what I did was stuck a bolt, or I'm sorry, a nut into that hole, which added that much more pressure behind the spring. That is 3/8 of an inch. So what I'm gonna do is I'll actually make a spacer for this to increase the spring pressure just a little bit, because that solved my problem. It goes into battery, no problem with that nut on there. Obviously that was just a temporary solution. I'm gonna get a better solution for this. Better permanent solution would be if PSA put a slightly heavier spring in this, but I don't have any control over that. So PSA, if you're watching, it could definitely use a couple more pounds of spring pressure. Didn't shoot any differently, and it does make it more reliable going into battery, since there is no forward assist on this. So that's what you got. I really do like this gun. It is still early in its evolution stages. It's very possible that PSA is gonna make some other changes to it. The 5.56 gun has had a little more time to evolve, to get the bugs worked out of it. This 300 blackout gun, still early on. In the first video, I was being accused of being a PSA basher and just hating on them. I own 3 PSA firearms myself. I convinced the owner of the gun store that I work at to be a PSA dealer. I like the Jakl so much and talked about it so much that after he shot mine, he bought one for himself. I am not a guy out here bashing PSA. I'm not a guy who's also gonna swear everything they do is 100% perfect, because obviously it did have some issues early on. I still think it needs a heavier recoil spring. I came up with a solution to that myself. But other than that, I mean, it's been a very enjoyable gun to shoot. shooting it cold. I put 9 rounds through it at 50 yards to zero this thing. And it was, people were complaining about the rifling on the barrel, the twist rate. So the twist on this barrel, if I can find the markings, I believe. So let's talk about final thoughts on this thing. What are my final thoughts? I really like this little gun. This is going to be my new truck gun. It's going to be my new backpack gun. I don't have any concerns about the reliability once I complete my little modification here to give the recoil spring a little bit more oomph. Other than that, feeding wise, the gun has been flawless since it came back from PSA. The only problems I had were those first rounds in a cold, dirty gun. So I am going to load this thing up. It will have the gas settings will be appropriate for the mag that I'm going to have in the gun. I will have spare mags in the bag. It's all going to be loaded up with subsonic with a can on it. And that's how I will run it. Whether you feel it is reliable enough to run as a potential life-saving tool, that's going to be entirely up to you. All of my concerns that I had with this gun initially, especially after the first day, those are all gone. I don't have those concerns any longer. I think with just a hair more recoil spring tension on this thing, solves any of the feeding issues this gun was having. The gas system is adjustable enough to allow for a heavier recoil spring. So I think it would probably be in PSA's best interest to put a slightly heavier spring in here, but that's entirely up to them. I'm gonna do what I need to do to make this gun reliable for me. So, yep, it definitely is getting 2 thumbs up from me. Hang on, 2 thumbs up. I like it a lot. I think if you are considering something in a 300 black pistol or something you plan on SBRing, this is definitely worth considering. It is, and I have a feeling as time goes by, it's going to become even more reliable than it currently is. I'm hoping that they resolve any of their quality control issues that they've had. Final thoughts. Go get yourself a Jakl. So, thank you for watching. If you like the content you're seeing here, please like, share, subscribe, throw some comments down below. Tell me what you think. If you have any suggestions, anything you'd like to see tested, any questions about what we did or what I did with this gun, throw them down in the comments. I try and monitor the comments and answer as many questions as I can. Also, as always, remember, practice your ABCs. Always be carrying.